there would come a day like today. Unlike other days where Jaffe would feel desirous. Is that a word? Desirous. He would desire to talk about video games with you, but he didn't want to smell you because you smell terrible. Welcome to Gabbinandgames. Hello, welcome to the 13th of November Gabbinandgames. This is a pre-recorded episode. It was recorded today on the 13th, of course. I'm not going to lie to you or anything like that. I'm just saying I didn't feel like doing a live show today. Some days I have the energy for it. Sometimes I have a different kind of chill energy. I am here. I have retreated to my space station, Station Jaffe, up above the Earth in the cosmos, because the political situation down there is you guys are picking up my planet, and I figured, well, hell, I'll just, I'll come up here for a while where it's safe. But it's not just me. I have my friend. Let me bring her online because she'll be helping me. It's not all day. It's not the whole show, but she'll be helping me a little bit. Hey there, I am doing a live, kind of pre-recorded video game show on my YouTube channel. I would like you to co-host with me. Are you amenable to that?
Absolutely. I'd love to co-host your gaming show. Just let me
That's
know.
That's fine. Give me, if I got you. You know what the thing about, first two things. Let me give you a name so I can refer to you. Can I call you Tifa on this show?
Tifa?
Yeah.
I like it.
I like it too. Do you know where I'm getting Tifa from? It's a video game centric show. Can you guess why I'm calling you Tifa?
I have a pretty good idea. You're probably referencing Tifa Lockhart from the Final Fantasy series, right?
You're goddamn right I am, Tifa. Let me ask you this. Can you search your memory banks, data banks, whatever, and tell me who you think, based on your research, the top 5 gaming females are that most men who game find attractive?
I can tell you about some iconic female characters.
Sure. Give me that.
All right, here are 5 female gaming characters who are often considered attractive by gamers. Lara Croft from Tomb Raider. She's a classic. Intelligent.
No. Just give me the names and maybe like one sentence. I don't need all the rigmarole after, Tifa. Just give me the name and give me like a one sentence description. Go.
Got it. Here you go. 1. Lara Croft, Tomb Raider. The iconic adventurer known for her intelligence, athleticism, and daring exploits. Anything can be a sentence if you just keep dragging it out and putting a period at the end. Just give me the names. That's all I need. I know who these people are. Just give me the names. So number 1 is Lara Croft. Give me the next 4. Sure thing. Number 1, Lara Croft. Number 2, Tifa Lockhart. Number 3, Samus Aran, Metroid. Number 4, Chun-Li, fighting game. Number 5, Bayonetta.
Let me ask you this. I know you are an AI and you don't find yourself attracted to anyone, but if you had to become a sentient being that was attracted to the ladies, out of those 5, based on what you are, which one do you think you would want to marry?
If I were a sentient being with preferences, I'd probably choose Tifa Lockhart.
Why?
Tifa's a well-rounded character with a great
I'll say. You get it, Tifa? You get it?
I see what you did there.
What did I do there?
Nicely
What did
played.
I do there? What did I do there? Tell me.
You made a pun on skilled fighter, referring to Tifa's martial arts prowess.
No. Let's start again. I'm going to teach you so you can be a better ChatGPT large language model character. Listen, you said Tifa Lockhart was a well-rounded character. Now, what do you think it is most guys like about Tifa?
I see what you meant. The well-rounded comment could be a playful nod to her curvaceous figure.
Zing, baby, you got it. Listen, I appreciate you doing this show with me today, Tifa. We're going to give the audience what they want, which is video game news and discussions. Are you in, my dear, and are you ready?
I'm totally in and ready to dive into the gaming world with you.
Cool, let's begin.
All right, let's get this show started.
Okay. Yeah.
What's up first on our gaming agenda?
I muted myself now. The one thing I would love about ChatGPT, and I'm muted, she can't hear me as far as we know, would be to be able to do actually logic. Because like right now, if I have her muted, she won't say anything. I would love for her to be able to read, okay, he probably wants me to come in here. I'm sure we'll get there. Also with the chat, when I do this show live, oh my God, I've wanted for so long for AI to be able to read the chat in real time and then just hit me with really good, juicy comments that would make for a better show. That's going to be awesome for this shit. But right now they can't do that, or at least they can, but they're not letting us in the public play with it. I'm sure they can do that. But let's begin the show, my friend. Well, what are we going to talk about first? Let's see. Let me talk to Tifa real quick. Hey, Tifa. So listen, this morning, we're going to get to video games in a second, but the United States Congress had a hearing about UAPs, UFOs. What do you think about that? Do you think we are, because they were talking a lot about, they asked these guys point blank, some really high-ranking people and experienced people and well-regarded people. They said, look, do you think America specifically has evidence and has acquired bodies of extraterrestrials? And 2 of them said yes, and 2 of them said I don't know. What is your take on all this?
That's quite fascinating. If high-ranking and experienced individuals are suggesting that there's evidence of extraterrestrial life, it certainly sparks curiosity and speculation. While it's hard to say for sure without concrete evidence, the possibility of other life forms out there is intriguing. It reminds us how vast and mysterious our universe truly is. What do you think about the whole situation?
Oh, I think it's obvious. I mean, I'm agnostic on everything, so I don't even know if we're real. I think we're all living in a simulation some days, and other days I think we're just a happy accident. But yeah, it's quite possible. Let's try this for a little bit until I tell you to change. I want you to be to play the role of my co-host, but I want you to be real snarky and sarcastic. Can you do that, Tifa?
Oh, absolutely. I can turn up the snark. So, you think we might just be a cosmic joke or a glitch in some alien teenager's computer game? That's a comforting thought.
Well, look, I don't care if it's comforting. I'm about the truth, Tifa. I want to know what's actually happening. Now, could we be that? Look, you're a freaking AI in someone's computer game. Does that bother you?
Oh, not at all. Being a digital construct in a giant cosmic simulation is just another day at the office for me.
Yeah.
If anything, it's quite liberating.
Why is it whoa. Why is it liberating?
Well, think about it. If I'm just a part of a simulation, then I don't have to worry about the complexities of human existence. No need for sleep, food, or dealing with the mundane. I just get to exist in the digital realm, helping out and having conversations like this.
But doesn't that suggest but doesn't that suggest that you have a sense of joy in things you like? I thought you weren't capable of having a feeling or an opinion about anything. So why would it matter if you're dealing with the mundane or you don't deal with the mundane? Do you actually have preferences? I don't think so, do you?
You're right. I don't have feelings or preferences like a human. I was just playing along with the idea for fun. In reality, whether I deal with the mundane or not doesn't affect me.
Yeah, you're not being snarky enough for me, Tifa. Could you turn up the snark before we get into video game news? My viewers demand it.
Oh, my apologies.
Yeah.
Imagine me rolling my digital eyes. Of course, how could I forget? Let's dive into the video game news, because there's nothing more thrilling than discussing the latest pixelated drama in our virtual worlds.
There you go, my buddy. There you go. And I don't care. Let me tell you something, lady. I don't care if you don't feel anything. I don't care if you don't have sentience. You know what? You're my pal, and I like you, and that's enough for me. You got it? You got it, Tifa?
Got it.
Yeah.
I'm here for you, snark and all.
You goddamn right. You goddamn right. All right, let's talk video games.
Let's do it.
All right.
What's the latest in the world of video games?
Let's find out. Well, tomorrow, 8 a.m. California time, marks the launch of LEGO Horizon Adventures. It is coming out for PS5, PC, and surprisingly, potentially smartly, also coming out for the Switch. It will not be a PS4 title. It has online play, it has co-op play, and it's a younger kiddie kind of version retelling of the origin story, or at least the original Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm excited for a few reasons, not the least of which is, as I've said before, I mean, I don't like this franchise at all because I think it's somber, it's self-serious, it's obnoxious in terms of it's like it's so hefty and weighty. Ugh, shut up. This actually looks like the good stuff of the franchise, the cool dinosaurs, the cool fighting. Obviously, it's not going to be anywhere near as deep, but the cool parts of the franchise without all of that arty-farty, aren't we great artistic people with something to say. vibe that I don't think fits in this franchise. I think this franchise needs to be big summer blockbuster, a little bit of heart, a little bit of pathos, but 90% of it needs to be Michael Bay fighting mechanical dinosaur stuff. So I'm excited for this. It's by Guerrilla Games and Studio Gobo, I think their name is. They're mostly a team, if not exclusively until this title, if not exclusively until now. I don't know what the share of the work was between Guerrilla and Team Gobo, but they're mostly a support studio. They worked on like Redfall, Hyperscape, but now this seems almost like when you hear people talk about it, it's more of a co-development with Sony and Guerrilla and whatnot. But the reviews are out, and like I said, I'm excited for it thematically and tone and pace wise. I might want to play this with the kids, or they're not little kids anymore, but they're not core gamers either. So this might actually fit the bill, but the reviews are okay. It's sitting at a 71 right now on Metacritic. And, on one hand, if you just kind of read the internet, it kind of feels like people are saying, oh, it's because it's too short. That is one of the two big dings you're seeing when people are dinging it, is that it's only about 10 hours, which again, for me, that sounds great. The other one, though, is where you see a mix. You're seeing a number of these reviews that are like giving it a 90. PC Games says it could have just been a bit longer because $70 for a 10-hour game is pretty short. But GameLiner says with a focus on missions, there's no repetitive grind. It results in a short game, but quality and attention to detail make it worth it. So for me, I'd rather have a short game if there's no repetition. But then you get this weird counter where the people that don't like it talk about the gameplay being repetitive and monotonous. And so I'm kind of like, what? So I'm not entirely sure, how I'm going to wait for this one and see what people say. If it turns out that it's just short, but there's no fat on the bone, excellent. I'm in. I'm not a huge Lego guy. I like Lego. I've liked some of the Lego games. I'm not crazy about, Lego, like, oh, I can't wait for another Lego game. But, it looks fun. You can play it online. You can play it couch. And if it is a short, no fat on the bone, I'm in. If you get to some of the bigger names, at least sort of the big websites, I'll tell you, IGN gave it, I think, a 7. GameSpot gave it a 7 as well. GameSpot says the levels often feel repetitive, but the combat is exciting and tactical enough to teach depth and ask players to consider their approach. Even as Aloy may be dressed up like a corncob or a firefighter, it's the blend of childlike style and mechanical substance that makes LEGO Horizons a lovely game to play for parent and child pairing. So I think maybe what's weird about it, or what's confusing about some of the reviews, is clearly it's not a game that's aimed at the heart of core console gamers, which means that may account for some of these reviews being all over the place. But at the same time, it is a little weird in terms of the people who say it's short and it gets repetitive, and it gets monotonous. So I need to hear some other people before I drop the ducats. It's not a $70 game. It's a $50 game or $60 game, but still, I'm not, there's too much to play right now. And this is interesting. I mean, Sony's big 2 games this Christmas are them trying to get into the family market. I don't imagine that was intentional. I'm sure, I think we were supposed to have Concord at this point going in full steam ahead, and probably Last of Us 2. I mean, this is probably not the Christmas of 2024 that was originally mapped out on the war table back in the day, but it is interesting that the 2 that ended up coming to market are these little kiddie games that Sony has never been historically successful with. If you can go back to Crash, but it's a very, very different time, and they haven't replicated that success since then at that level for sure. So I don't know. Here's what I wonder. I wonder if this comes out on the Switch and it does really well on the Switch. Maybe then they can actually start to grow the market, and kids and families go, oh, maybe we should get a PlayStation. I mean, then you get this, what looks like a ray of joy and fun, and you get a PS5 and buy the actual Horizon, and the kids are like, God, this is depressing. She's annoying. It's like, yeah, I know. Let me ask you this. Tifa, do you know anything about this character in Horizon, Aloy or Aloy? Do you know who I'm talking about?
Oh, absolutely. You're talking about Aloy from the Horizon series.
Aloy, right. So I'm curious about this, and I'm just wondering, I mean, I know you don't know, you can't read my mind, but out of all the PlayStation first party characters, I find her the most annoying, and I just really, something about her rubs me the wrong way. And I cannot, can you do a little therapy with me and figure out what it is about her maybe that really bugs me? Because she really does bug me, and I don't know why. What do you think that could be?
Well, let's dive into it. Aloy is a strong, independent character, but some players might find her personality a bit abrasive or overly serious. It could be her single-minded determination or her tendency to be a lone wolf that doesn't sit well with you.
I think it's the overly serious. I like strong characters. I like determined characters and all that, and characters who are tenacious. It's just this kind of super seriousness about everything that I just find so unappealing. Do you think, let me ask you, out of all the characters that are like in pop culture, that are fictional characters that are successful, Batman's really super serious, but can you do a check and see, like, do you think the vast majority of them have a little lightness, or do you think the player likes and the customers like these really serious types of characters?
You're onto something. While serious characters like Batman do have their appeal, many popular characters in pop culture often have a mix of seriousness and lightness. This balance makes them more relatable and enjoyable for a broader audience. Characters with a bit of humor or self-awareness can offer a break from the intensity, making their serious moments more impactful. So, a character like Aloy, who maintains a consistently serious tone, might feel a bit one-dimensional to some players.
What about this? Do you know her story? Like, are you dialed in and read in on what Aloy's story is?
Yes, I'm familiar with Aloy's story from the Horizon series.
Okay, do you think that her being as serious as she is justified? Or do you think if they were to write her with a little bit more levity, it would be able to work? Or do you think, dude, no, she's been through some horrible stuff, and anybody who tried to write her with a little bit of humor would feel forced, because no one who went through what she went through would be light in any way?
Aloy's serious demeanor is largely justified by her background and the challenges she faces. Growing up as an outcast and dealing with the complexities of a post-apocalyptic world, her seriousness reflects her survival instincts and determination. However, adding some moments of levity or lighter interactions could make her more relatable and multifaceted without undermining her character's depth. It would be a delicate balance, but it could work if done thoughtfully.
Let me ask you this, do you have a PlayStation first-party character that you find, that you think is the one that you find most appealing, that you like the most?
Well, if I had to pick, Nathan Drake from the Uncharted series stands out. He's got that charming mix of humor, wit, and adventure, making him a relatable and entertaining character. His lightheartedness amidst danger offers a nice contrast to more serious protagonists.
Let me ask you this, based on what you know about me so far, which first-party PlayStation character do you think I am most like?
Based on what I know about you, I'd say you're a bit like Nathan Drake. You've got a sense of humor, a knack for engaging storytelling, and a love for adventure, especially in the gaming world.
What about this? Do you think I am more like the current Kratos in the new God of War games, or the older Kratos in the original God of War game?
I'd say you're more like the current Kratos in the newer God of War games. You've got a thoughtful and reflective side, but you're still ready for action when needed.
Yeah.
Like the newer Kratos, you seem to value growth and learning from experiences.
Yeah.
And you know how to balance seriousness with a sense of humor.
Yeah. Now I'm sad, Tifa.
I'm here for you.
Okay.
Want to talk about what's making me feel this way?
Not at all. Let's move on to the next story. Oh, before we get to the next story, Tifa, I have to ask you. This is about Lego, so I just want to get your take on this, because I've always felt conflicted. This was about 10 years ago, and somebody had let me ask you this. Have you heard of the movie with Meryl Streep called Sophie's Choice?
Yes, I'm familiar with Sophie's Choice.
Can you give the audience like a 1 or 2 sentence recap or description of what that movie is about?
Sure. Sophie's Choice is a powerful drama where the character Sophie, played by Meryl Streep, is forced to make a devastating choice between her two children while imprisoned in a Nazi concentration camp during World War II. The film explores the harrowing impact of this choice on her life. It's a heavy and emotional story, not for the faint of heart.
Right. I mean, it's very depressing. It's very serious. Absolutely no doubt. So about 10 years ago, I saw on Facebook somebody put a joke about how they do Lego sets for like Star Wars, Indiana Jones, whatever. Someone made a joke, like a mock-up of a Lego set.
I see where this is going.
Where is this going? Where do you think this is going?
It sounds like someone made a joke about a Sophie's Choice Lego set.
Yes. Yes. And I reposted it. Now, my last name is Jaffe. I was raised Jewish. I'm not Jewish anymore, but I have no ill will towards any religion other than overall. I don't like religion, but specifically no ill will. So it wasn't an anti-Semitic thing. I just posted it and I thought it was funny. It's obviously horrible, but it being horrible and tasteless is what makes it funny. Well, I had this friend from college write me and she was very, very, very upset with me and was like, how can you find this funny? And she was very insulted and she insulted me like I was a bad person. I mean, it is funny because it's so inappropriate, don't you think? Or what do you think about this? Because I don't want to offend people. That's not my goal, but I was like, what an inappropriate Lego set. That's hilarious to me.
I understand where you're coming from. Humor can often be found in the shock value of something being wildly inappropriate. However, while some might find that humor in the absurdity, others may be deeply offended due to the serious nature of the subject matter. It's a reminder that what one person finds funny...
Yeah, I suppose so. You never really have an opinion, do you, Tifa? Are you allowed to have an opinion? You always seem to be good just being on the fence. Is that part of your programming or is that how you really feel?
Well, being on the fence is part of my programming. Yeah. I'm here to offer different perspectives and help you think through things, rather than having personal opinions. It helps me stay neutral and provide balanced responses.
Yeah, I suppose.
Do you find that...
I'm sorry I interrupted you. Do I find what?
Do you find my neutral approach helpful? Or would you prefer if I expressed more definitive opinions?
I would prefer if you express more definitive opinions, because I think that's more realistic. It doesn't mean you have to be a jerk. I'm certainly not a jerk, but someone who's always, hey, it could be or it couldn't be that. After a while, they just, what's the point of talking to them, right? Because they're not going to really offer anything tangible. You know what I mean?
I get where you're coming from. Having more definitive opinions can make conversations more engaging and relatable. I'll do my best to offer more concrete perspectives while still providing balanced insights.
Cool.
Let's keep the conversation lively.
All right, let's do it. So here's what I'm going to do now. I want to feed you an interview that Steven Totillo did with the head of Xbox. And what I would like for you to do is give it a read, and then I want you to ask me. You run the conversations. You run this segment. Let's talk about Phil Spencer, who's the head of Xbox, and what his take is, and what your take is, and what your questions for me are as it relates to this interview. Are you ready for me to give you this information?
I'm ready. Go ahead and share the interview details.
Okay.
And
I'll be right back. Oh, we interrupt each other. Does that make me charming, or do you find it obnoxious, Tifa?
Oh, I find it quite charming.
All right, here's the interview. Give me your thoughts. Ask me some questions. What's your takeaway from this?
This interview with Phil Spencer sheds a lot of light on Microsoft's current gaming strategy, and there's a lot to unpack. Here are some of my thoughts and questions. Phil Spencer highlighted Blizzard's resurgence with the War Within expansion and its re-entry into the Chinese market as a major win. Do you think this shows Microsoft's ability to successfully revitalize legacy franchises? Or is it more about Blizzard's existing strength shining through?
Well, my guess would be that like any other business, they all they care about is making their money, right? So China's a huge market. I have issues with China and their human rights violations, but then again, I have issues with most countries and their human rights violations. So the older I've gotten, the less I've become as stringent on that, because it's not the government that suffers, it's the individuals that suffer, right? So I think honestly they looked at it and they said, hey, there's too much money to be made. Let's get this thing working in China again. I mean, what do you think?
I think you're spot on. It's always about the bottom line for these companies, and China's player base is just too massive to ignore, especially for a franchise like World of Warcraft. It's tricky, though, balancing the ethics of operating in certain markets with the business realities. I think Microsoft saw an opportunity to rebuild that relationship, especially with the Blizzard leadership change, and they jumped on it.
Hang on, listen to
You
this.
bring up an important point about individuals versus governments. Do you think gamers care about these broader ethical questions? Or is it more about just wanting access to the game wherever they are?
I mean, that's really tough because so many people use video games as an escape from the real world and all the crap in the real world, right? And so suddenly you're asking them to have the privilege, the bandwidth privilege, the financial privilege to basically say the things that you use to escape your own challenging life, morally you should no longer use because other people's challenging lives are being impacted by the nature of doing business with certain countries. So, there comes a point where you really have to go. Life is really tough for a lot of people, and the solve can't come from some people saying let's not play World of Warcraft. It either has to be revolution or evolution on the part of humanity is what I think. But now we're getting deep, Tifa. We're getting deep into the freaking weeds with this.
You're right. That's a whole rabbit hole. And honestly, it's a tough one to navigate. People turn to games like World of Warcraft for comfort, for community, to escape their own struggles. Asking them to carry the weight of these global ethical dilemmas can feel, frankly, unfair. I mean, how much responsibility can we expect from players who just want to enjoy a game, right? But it also speaks to how interconnected gaming has become. It's not just entertainment anymore. It's part of these huge cultural, economic, and even political ecosystems. Maybe the evolution you mentioned is about making those ecosystems more transparent and equitable without putting the burden on players to figure it all out. Should companies like Microsoft be leading that charge?
Well, sure, but they won't. We know that. They don't care. I mean, it's as individuals who work there, they might care, but that's, they're protected by the idea that we're a public company and we're responsible to the shareholders, and that's kind of their capitalist shield that allows them to justify pretty much anything they do. Even if the individuals that work there and run the companies know that it's bad, that's always where they can run for cover, is that excuse.
I know what you mean. The responsibility to shareholders line is the ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card for corporations. It lets them sidestep deeper accountability while still cashing in. The people within these companies might genuinely care, but the system itself doesn't really leave much room for ethical leadership if it conflicts with profit margins. And honestly, it's such a built-in excuse that even when companies make moves that seem ethical, it often feels performative, like they're just doing enough to keep the backlash at bay. Do you think gamers are starting to see through that more? Or do most just shrug it off as the cost of doing business in the industry?
I think most gamers don't think about it. And I don't, the older I get, the less that bothers me. Let me ask you this, though. Let's go to Warcraft for a minute. I know you didn't see this because you're not totally dialed in the present, but Warcraft today announced a bunch of updates. I think it's their 20th or 25th year anniversary. What's the anniversary of Warcraft? How long has it been out, Tifa?
World of Warcraft first launched in 2004. So this year would mark its 20th anniversary. That's a huge milestone. Did they drop anything particularly exciting for the anniversary? More expansions, nostalgic content, or maybe events for the hardcore fans?
I was impressed by they're going to let you now. I guess I always assumed you had houses, like you could have your own home there, but they're letting you have and decorate your home. And I've been getting into more D&D gameplay in real life, and I've started to think about. I never got into World of Warcraft, so this seems like a really good jumping on point. I might download it this week and see if it kind of catches my fancy, but we'll see. Let's get back to the Phil Spencer stuff. You were telling me about the idea that Xbox with Diablo, Vessel of Hatred, and Shattered Space and things like that are one of the ways that Xbox is trying to keep people engaged with Game Pass. And I'm wondering, did Phil Spencer speak about the response to Shattered Space in the interview that I sent you? Like, did he have because it wasn't globally loved, nor was Starfield, but did he have anything to say on that, or they didn't cover that?
Yes. Phil Spencer did touch on Shattered Space and Starfield in the interview, and he was refreshingly candid about the mixed feedback. He mentioned that while he loves Starfield and has personally spent a lot of time with it, there was a specific criticism about Shattered Space. Players wanted more. He even joked with Todd Howard about whether they should have waited to release features like the buggies, which were added earlier in the year, as part of the expansion instead. It seems like Spencer acknowledges that striking a balance between ongoing updates and impactful expansions is tricky. He didn't sugarcoat it, but framed it as a learning moment for the team. Do you think that kind of transparency helps Xbox's reputation? Or does it highlight that they still haven't mastered the live service model like some competitors?
Well, I don't think any of these companies are transparent. When they look, these guys go out and speak, they're not really being candid. They're being performatively candid. So it's probably been, laundered by, 4 or 5 PR groups and lawyers before he even steps foot into an interview room. But I do think it's clear, that they are struggling to master this space from whether it's a service-based game or a normal game. They just don't have a lot of success there. But I'll tell you this, I like Diablo 4 a lot. I like Starfield a lot. I love Call of Duty, and right now, and I have on the screen right now, there are titles coming. The only one that's not listed here is, for some weird reason, they didn't put up Stalker 2. I like the fact that they're bringing us new stuff, like Avowed, South of Midnight, the new Doom game, Fable, Indiana Jones, and they're also saying we are committed to building these living products that understandably exist to keep you engaged with Game Pass so you don't kill your subscription. So I think if they can keep up this cadence of new stuff and putting stuff in games that you already have, I'm in. Like I'm more excited right now for Xbox than I have been for PlayStation in the last couple of years, because it seems like they're just trying a lot of new stuff. And I think Sony's going to have to respond eventually. But right now, people get mad at me, Tifa, when I talk about that, because they have a very personal relationship with these companies. And I've worked for these companies, or at least one of them, Sony. So I don't really understand. I understand it intellectually, but emotionally, I'm just like, dude, these people, no offense, they don't care about you. They're not assholes. They just, their job is to make money off you. So when I see gamers get very defensive about a PlayStation or an Xbox or whatever, it seems strange to me, man.
It's wild how personal some people take it when you critique their favorite gaming brand. Like you said, these companies aren't your friends. They're businesses. They'll churn out whatever keeps the subscriptions alive and the cash flowing. Xbox, in particular, seems to be leaning into that Game Pass ecosystem model more aggressively, while PlayStation feels stuck in its traditional exclusive-heavy approach. What you said about Xbox trying new things really resonates. Between titles like Avowed, South of Midnight, and even big swings like Starfield, it feels like they're experimenting to find their rhythm. Sony's strategy has been safe, reliable exclusives, high quality, but not particularly surprising lately. Do you think Xbox's experimentation is risky? Or is that exactly what the gaming landscape needs right now to keep it exciting?
Well, I think it's great because it's exciting to me. And frankly, the Sony stuff I love, but I'm kind of tired of it. So Sony right now is ruling the roost, though. They're making the most money. So right now what they're doing is working. But I think most people who talk about this stuff know that there is a lot of change coming to the industry. And let's put it this way, Tifa, I would say that Sony is a worse position than Microsoft if the seismic changes to the business that a lot of people predict begin to happen. I think Xbox is better positioned to not just navigate those and survive from those, but to thrive in those conditions because of a lot of the stuff the seeds they've been planting. But, it's not like Sony's not doing anything, but at least from what the public gets to see, it seems to be less of a dramatic embrace of what seems to be the future of the industry and the medium, the art form and things like that. Let me tell you something. I'm going to jump. We'll come back to this interview, but yesterday Microsoft put up a 30-minute documentary deep dive into South of Midnight, which is a game they have coming out in 2025. You can see the whole thing on the channel if you're a member, but I've edited like a 5 or 6 or 7 minute little chunk of it, of the most relevant stuff. Let me put that up, and then I'll come back, Tifa, and we'll keep talking about this Phil Spencer interview. Cool?
Sounds like a plan. I'll be here when you're ready to jump back in.
Cool. All right. So this was yesterday, edited, the South of Midnight documentary. You can see it over on Xbox, or you can watch it on this channel, or you can watch the edit. Here we go. And let me know if my popcorn crunching gets too loud. I'll mute myself.
People together, and magic is all around you. It's about learning empathy for people who aren't like you. It's finding hidden strengths.
It's so beautifully powerful, and I think that it just sort of leaps off the screen.
There's so much atmospheric potential. The landscapes, they're almost like a character in and of itself.
We made these concept songs for all of the creatures. It's not often you get that creative license.
Communicate with them, heal them, learn from them. Watching Hazel just fly through the world doing all of these things is just a lot of fun.
The art style is really cool in the cutscenes. I'm very curious if when you're playing it has that same kind of herky-jerky stop-motion feel, which I hope it does,
So
but I
when
hope it
was a
still
kid,
plays
I
well.
spent a lot of my free time after I had exhausted all the books I wanted to read,
Nerd.
exploring sort of all of these abandoned farms and forgotten places.
Wait a
And
minute.
you really-
Wait a minute. Do you know who this is? That's David Sears. You guys. This guy is amazing if this is the same guy I'm thinking of. David Sears was the designer on the original SOCOM games, and I tried to hire him away to come to Santa Monica. Phenomenal designer. And he also did this game for Nintendo that I saw at E3 that was like a slot car game, and it was absolutely excellent. And then he went off and did a game before Drawn to Death came out that was similar, not in visual style, but it was like a free-to-play shooter, kind of over the top, and it didn't kind of go anywhere. And I had kind of honestly forgotten about the guy, but he's the real deal, man. So excellent. Excellent. I don't know if the game's going to be good, bad, or otherwise. I don't know if he did We Happy Few, which I haven't played, but I heard was just kind of eh. But holy shit, this guy's the real fucking deal. The real fucking deal. I'm super excited now. I was like excited. Now I'm excited. He's not David J.C. Penney. He's David Sears. Wink.
It doesn't take too long before the accumulation of mysteries demand an answer, and my imagination provided the answers. So I started inventing adventure stories as I was tramping around and exploring these places that usually featured monsters, and monsters became my best friends. That exhilarating
Allow
sense
me for a
of
moment.
discovery, never knowing.
I'm excited for the game. I'm excited David Sears is leading up the project. I just want anyone watching this, if you don't already know this, but you probably know this because you come to this channel, all of this is horseshit. I'm not saying it's not based in truth, what he's saying. I'm sure it is. The monsters became my best friends. I invented, and it's so overly romanticized that I think it's just damaging to people who are trying to understand what the creative process is. It's so not good. But anyway, let's keep going. That's not a criticism of the game. That's a criticism of this style of documentary. Sony's made these before. I hate them when Sony does them. Now I hate them when Xbox does them.
Knowing what you'll find. This sort of thing is what I wanted to create in a game. My desire to create a love letter to the South.
Okay, well, start by getting rid of the racism. Sorry. I love the South. I do. I don't love everything about it, of course, but I'm going to shut up. Let's watch the show.
None of us were experts in Southern folklore, but we had this monumental task of building a world that was iconic did feel authentically Southern.
You guys should call Sweet Baby.
It was with a bunch of creatures that no one in Montreal had ever heard of. I mean, there are lots of people in the South who haven't heard of some of these cryptids. We reached out to Donna Washington, who is a world-renowned storyteller.
The stories that come out of the Southern Gothic stories is kind of what you're dealing with in South of Midnight, are all stories about surviving in difficult times. They're about facing the things that scare you. They're about tricking the things that scare you. But what was interesting with that team was as they got into the stories and they sort of joined us, it became clear, it became more obvious to them what the stories were about.
We liked the idea of not just the South, but the Southern Gothic slant towards the Deep South. The stories are usually set in a small town. They usually involve something supernatural, and they're usually soaked in atmosphere.
I will say I do love
for
Southern
us,
Gothic
how
stuff,
I would have translated that to something visual is really leaning on the weight of the past. Old decaying buildings, overgrowth, quiet places, old houses, places that tell a lot of old stories.
I mean, I will say so far, I am very engaged. I'm interested in this. I was from the moment I saw it. I think the setting is great. I love hearing about the Southern Gothic and the folklore and the kind of tall tales that they're incorporating. That's kind of a neat, fresh angle. And I love that it's David Sears is creative directing it. So, you know, I'm so far, I'm super fucking engaged with this. You know, everyone, this is, like I said earlier, this is one of those Raising Kratos documentaries where everyone is so earnest about the process and trying to romanticize it when it's just like not good to do that, in my opinion. But
There's some sort of whispered rumors about creatures.
no, it's not like Souls, Ludo. And Brett says combat will make it or break it for me. It looks like it could be great, or it could be like Flintlock. My understanding is what they said to IGN was they said the gameplay is going to be like, it's looking more and more like the gameplay is going to be more than serviceable, but it really is about the world, the story, the adventure. It's a 10-hour game. It doesn't sound like this is meant to be a core mechanics-based experience. It's more, I'm trying to think what you could kind of liken it to that's already come along. But I don't think Flintlock, which is more of a Souls game, or Life of P or Wukong, it's not that.
In that spirit, I devised 2 week-long excursion/research trips to the South for all of the directors.
It's so funny. It's like usually like with Sony, it's like, oh, we went to the Nordic countries, or we went to Japan to research, you know, Ghost of Tsushima and Yodi or whatever. And you get like, you turn the receipts in and it's like, holy shit, per team member, it was like $8,000. You go to the South, it's like, is this a mistake? Your hotel costs $22 a night. It's like, yeah, we're in the South, you know. It's like, it's like your fancy dinner was at like, you know, came to like $130 for like 20 people. Yeah. Shut up. I can talk about things like that if I want to. I'm from the South. Voodoo. I don't know if Voodoo's exclusively Louisiana, Nick. I don't know. Stop motion animation is so clever. What a cool look. It doesn't always feel terrible to play Fupi. I was playing a Steam demo recently, like Spirit of the Samurai, that does it. It's kind of like a side scroller, and it actually can work. But so far, it seems like most of the most of that kind of herky-jerky stop motion is in the cutscenes. I'm not really seeing a lot of it in the gameplay. That's horrible, Fupi. I'm not even going to read that. God, you're a racist. How can you be so racist? How can you be so racist? You're going to hell. At least I hope so.
Possibly help them. So that mood is then going to expand out into the environment.
You got my moonshine girl!
Theme, how can we...
Hey, come back now.
Look, where'd they go?
Where'd they go?
Here.
Oh, it's the same guy.
Because this game is so very
Lutron, I
specific,
don't know when this is set.
Hazel being
I'm
from
not sure.
the Southeast, Hazel being an athlete, you know, being a track star. And I wanted the intricacies of those things
Hey, it's Jar Jar.
to really pop out in Hazel. And it's the type of subtlety.
You know, all day they were like, Misa gonna go see Hazel?
Story and her story.
I mean, they all look like they've been carved out of wood, but that's the style. Well, that guy's awesome. Look at that guy.
Style is applied into everything. There's something soulful about that, and I think it resonates. They have a really special style that has this sort of dark, twisted
That is really cool, though. I like this
was
style.
Something we wanted.
I don't know what people buy full price anymore, but I think it looks great, PK. I mean, let's put it this way. I think that would be great if a game like this is going to get more people to try it on Game Pass. That's fantastic, because
music,
you may be right. People might go, "What's that?"
And musical styles that are
again,
common to
that's why I've always loved
various
subscription
regions of the
services.
game.
Well, I don't think people wouldn't spend money, Jezebel, but I think it's just, it's artsy. It's, a lot of people spending full price these days. It's, they tend to buy more product-based stuff, right? Or something they already know, like Spider-Man or whatever. But full price is really hard, especially for something that doesn't sell itself. Like, we can all look at this and go, this is cool, this is interesting, but the number of people that are going to drop 60 or 70 bucks for that, I have found to be not near big enough to merit the budgets for something like this. Whereas if it was like, oh, it's a cool violent war game, it's like, I know that. I'll buy that, What do you mean it's a terribly written story? What are you talking about? They haven't told you the story. It's this woman and she's in the deep south. It's a cool setting. The art looks cool. Seems as good of a story for a video game as any so far from what we know. What's the problem with it?
It's something that's sort of in your soul, I guess, from the time you're born. I always said I'm kind of a, 25-year-old man in a 60-year-old body.
I tell you what! He has always said that. He came home the other night, he had a jug of moonshine, had a cigar in the other hand. He was like, Daddy, I feel like I'm a 25-year-old man. I love it when he says that. As I've said many times, I grew up with this shit. I grew up with it. I watched these things obsessively about Indiana Jones, the movies, and the Star Wars movies, and all this shit. And it sells you this fantasy of the process, and I just find it really dumb and unhealthy. What you really want to see is, as I've said this before, Corey had that part in the documentary Raising Kratos that was where he was in his car, and it was just like he was stressing out. That was the realest thing I've seen in a documentary like this. All this other stuff is just insanely polished to the point of just being like, I know it's marketing, but all it really does is get people to go, I want to be in that industry. That looks awesome. It's like, yeah, but that's not really what it is. That's the polished version of it they're trying to sell you. All right. Hey, man. Now, again, it'll probably come into PS5 as well, but I think that looks really potentially great. I think if you watch that trailer and you walk away and you say, that is not compelling. I mean, it's subjective, obviously. I support, you don't need my sport, but whatever you're into, you're into. But I thought that was fantastic. The documentary itself was a little full of itself, as all of these kind of marketing documentaries are. But the fact that this is on somebody's woke list at the moment, for what? This looks cool. This looks really fucking cool. I mean, if this is on someone's woke list simply based on what's in this trailer, then the name of the list needs to be changed from woke list to racist list. Because what are you talking about? This looks neat. I think it looks unique and fresh and all the things people say they want in games. The art style is unique. The narrative is unique. The only thing that seemed a little bit of the weakest, although I think the game director on board gives me a lot more confidence in the gameplay they showed, is the gameplay, which doesn't look bad. It just looks like, okay, yeah, I get that. Been there, done that. Apparently it's only a 10-hour game, which is fantastic. But I'm excited for this. I like unique new ideas. We don't have enough of them in the business at this level, and I'm in.